suppose my story starts back in the 70s when I met my to-be husband, Michael Calvey. Unfortunately, one day he went on a robbery and he was shot by the police. That was the start of me becoming, right, he died doing this, I'm going to do it. And then he said, I'm giving you 7 years and I hope you don't get a day off on appeal.
It's my great pleasure to introduce Linda Calvey, the Black Widow, of course, as they call you, Linda. Welcome on the platform.
Thank you very much for inviting me today.
It's my pleasure. Look, I was looking forward to this one, Lynn, because we go back, we know a lot of the same people. And I can remember I was even, when I was a cat A and I was up in Durham, you was just over on the other wing, right? And you was a cat A too.
I was in Durham, that's right.
So look, for people out there who may not know you, tell us a little bit about who are you, Linda?
Right. Well, the police dubbed me the nickname of the Black Widow, which in the beginning I didn't particularly like, but now I embrace it and I take it with a pinch of salt. I suppose my story starts back in the 70s when I met my to-be husband, Michael Calvey, and he was an armed robber. He was an armed robber when I met him, he'd just come home. I fell in love with him. I was only 19, he was very charismatic, and I didn't care what he did. To me, this was my perfect partner.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, one day he went on a robbery and he was shot by the police. Mm. And on that day, the night before, he got his shotgun out. He got cartridges. He undone the ends, tipped all the little stuff that's in it, all the little pellets, the shot, and he just put in cotton wool and just sealed it back up. Mm. So I said, why have you done that? He said, well, it's Christmas, it's on top of a supermarket. God forbid, if I've got to fire my gun, all that's going to come out is cotton wool. I can't hurt anybody, but it will give the effect.
Yeah.
So knowing this, that night he never come home. I was out with a friend, we were looking for him. So I never saw on the TV at the time that somebody had been shot on a robbery. And a friend come back with me that night. She'd seen it on the news, but never told me. And we was in her pub and she just said, Mickey said, stay here. Anyway, stayed. I said, well, where is he? What's he doing? Oh, you know what Mickey's like, he'll be here. But she knew he was dead. She come home with me. And 6 o'clock in the morning, there was a phone call from Mickey's elder brother. And she answered it. And she said, Lynn, Mickey's been nicked. We've got to go straight away over to Poplar to Terry. So I've gone, oh, I'll get a bag. As you know, Stephen, we pack a bag.
A couple of bits.
So she went, no, leave his bag. She knows. Anyway, we get there, knock on the door. As we walk in, I saw my mum, my sister, one of his other brothers, and I thought, what are they all doing here this time of the morning? And walked into the room. Terry put his arms on my shoulders and he went, Linny's dead. And all I could hear was somebody screaming. And somebody else went, slap her around the face, she's hysterical. And I was thinking, yes, slap her around the face, she's hysterical, who's screaming? That was me. Anyway, they give me a brandy, sat down. Terry said, come on, we've got to go. You're his wife. They won't let me do the identification. You've got to do it. So we went over to the mortuary and we had to look through glass. They wheeled him over and there was a policeman standing with a clipboard. So he's going, you'll have to sign to take your husband. Terry went, yeah, she will sign. We want to get him out of here. So as he was talking, I wasn't really listening to him till he went, It was terrible, really, really terrible. The officer had no choice. Mickey looked at him and said, "It's me or you." Now, he's got cotton wool in his gun, and would you face...
Tooled up.
Yeah, would you face Yeah. So, with that...
Doesn't make sense.
I picked his clipboard, I threw it on the floor. I said, "You shot him through the back."
Yeah.
No, he went white. No. He said, "Listen, just sign or you can't take him." Terry went, "Just sign." I went, "I'm not signing."
Yeah, we've taken him anyway. Right. Don't worry about that.
We walked out. Terry went, you never signed it." I said, "Listen."
So they wanted you to sign it, they said that as well. They had the verbal
and when we picked it up, it said I agreed with their version of events.
Yeah, and they can't sign that. And this is not right.
Anyway, we went out. And when I said to Terry, he went, "Oh, bloody hell, right." He said, "Well, I'm glad you didn't sign it." He said, "I wouldn't have known that, I would have signed." So he said, "Right, well, we'll get a solicitor on this." So the solicitor said, "We want an autopsy." He contacted the police, and the police said, "You haven't got to worry, we've already done it. We've done the autopsy." So I said, "I want my own autopsy."
Independent.
So they went, no, you don't need one." "Yeah, we do." Well, the police's one said he was shot through the stomach and the bullet come out through his back.
Right, but it was the other way around.
It was the other way round. Yeah. But now we got the top guy in the country, and he got onto the police, "I want to do my own autopsy." They went, "We've lost the body." I mean, you couldn't do this nowadays.
Yeah, crooked.
So we had to go to court. And the magistrate said, "I never ever believed I would actually be asked to return a body, because it's normally an item people want back, a car or whatever." So I'm issuing a writ of habeas corpus. You have got to return this body. You've got 48 hours. Otherwise there's going to be an inquiry. So the police had to return the body. When we got the body back, he did his autopsy. It was the complete opposite of the police's.
Now, I have to just say here for people out there is, look, I have my own experience, and especially in them days, Linda, we were talking about, they'd always put a bit of verbal on the end of it.
Oh, of course.
They always done it just to tie it in, spin it round their way, and it was lies, basically.
Yeah.
You know, they'd put that in there, because so it used to happen a lot, you know. And
it did. It was the. If anyone's watched the old Sweeney, that really was.
They was okay.
That was
that,
them then. That was.
And even a little bit later, I mean, there's a lot of stories. Yeah. You know, I was involved with that, even like they fitted me up. But this is a very real thing, right? Yeah. And there are many proven cases of this, especially in them days, right?
Yeah. So I think that something in my brain clicked, because even though Mickey was an armed robber, I was so straight. If somebody went to me, "Go in there and pinch a sweet," I'd go, "Oh, I couldn't do that." Now I've become the avenging angel. I've got to revenge what happened to Mickey.
But it's traumatic.
But also,
big time traumatic.
There was,
and you had children was involved in this as well, right?
I had a son and a daughter.
Yeah, so think about that. There's another big layer of
my daughter was 8, my son was 4. Yeah. Now they've got no dad.
Yeah.
And to me, if he'd have got caught and he went to prison, that's fine. He got caught, he went to prison. But to get shot, we haven't got no death sentence in England. That officer gave him a death sentence. And on top of that, we then had somebody that was in that police station, very high up, who approached my brother-in-law and said, "Listen, you can't name me." He said, "But I'm going to tell you." That officer was off duty. He had the gun out illegally because his time had gone, and he was drunk. He left a pub, he told us the name of the pub, he told us everything. And he said, "I'm telling you what you've got to ask for. You've got to ask for the gun book, the duty roster, various things." Well, everything we asked for, now they know somebody's telling us what we got to have. The duty book, there was pages missing, they don't know what happened. The gun book, somebody had knocked a cup of tea, so it was not illegible, you couldn't read it. So the more of these things, the more I'm thinking, bastards, you've killed him, killed him. And it was unlawful. And then on top of that, when we went to the hearing for him, they said, justifiable homicide. Well, there's nothing justifiable about shooting somebody in the back who's running away. So that was the start of me becoming, right, he died doing this. He did that to give us a good life and my kids a good life. I'm going to do it. And it gradually worked out that I ended up taking over his gang and becoming the main person.
Now look, I'm gonna step in and to ask you about this because this is part of the uniqueness of your story, Linda, right? Really, I can't think of anyone, right, who's quite like you. That's the truth.
No, I don't believe there
there isn't, right? Not the way the story is, you come from the East End, all of that stuff. I mean, there's a lot of murder in your background. There's a lot of organised crime in your background. There's a lot of trauma in your background. There's a lot of prison, high-level category A, high-security imprisonment. It's all in there, but you're a feminine, right? So it takes a really, the statistics, it's extremely rare.
I mean, I'm feminine, especially when I was young, and I always used it. Everybody went, we just can't imagine you, Linda. You always had these pretty dresses on and lovely sort of high heels and all your hair done lovely. And yet there was this alter ego that used to get changed and disguised and go.
But this is why it started, and it gives me an explanation, right? Because as a woman, I mean, of course we're all different, but you would sit with that all the time, right? And it's how you translated it, obviously, right, So what happened? You started the armed robbery game, you started going out then, or what?
Well, I started speaking to the people that he actually had worked with. And first of all, they went, Linda, you haven't got to do anything. We'd bung you every time we do something. And I went, but you haven't got to do that. So they said, well, look, we know you're good at planning because Mickey couldn't drive. So as you know, the robbery takes 2 minutes, the planning takes a month, 2 months.
So getting away with
So I always said you've got to plan it as if you're going to get caught. So you can't just have one out, you've got to have 2, 3, 4. And I would look for places, and I started off doing that, and I'd say to them, I found this bank, or I found this, and if you go round there, or you can go here, or you can go, so that it was all different outs. And so I started doing that, and they said, right, you can find us the things, you can plan everything for us. Then it went from that to I then became the driver. And then I said, I could go in there and
I have to ask, was you any good, Lid? Speedy Gonzales, I bet you was mustard, right? You was the one, I bet you was, because you've got to be good, right? No messing around.
I was a getaway driver and I was good. And yet now that I'm the age I am and my kids go, Mum, you're like driving Miss Daisy, you do 40 miles an hour. And you stick to all these. I said, yeah, but that was, this is me. I said, that my alter ego was a totally different person to me. That person could do anything. And I have to say, the one thing, when we actually got caught, we got caught because Brian Thorogood's wife had put, you probably did come across him. Yeah. Well, I worked with Brian as one of the people, and his wife said, he's having an affair. She got a private detective to follow him. Well, the private detective went, well, I didn't see him with a woman, but I see him do an armed robbery, and I've reported it to the police.
No way.
Yeah, so that is how it happened. That is how they got us. And the one thing when we got caught,
I didn't see him with a woman, but I see him do an armed robbery, and I've reported it to them. That's mental.
Yeah. And I did that. And the police said, you were so good, we would never have caught you other than that. Yeah. And to me, that was a little, so it wasn't that I'd done anything wrong. It was just...
It was known to be quite good, across the pavement, Brian. To be honest, and think, and this boy as well, and you as boy, Yeah. They've been at it a while, them guys, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I was arrested with Brian Thorogood and Carl Gibney.
Before we jump into that now, my new book was just hit bestseller on 2 categories, called Extraordinary, Stephen Gillen, The Search for a Life Worth Living. Right, you're doing the armed robberies, all of this stuff. Just quickly to wrap it up, to give people an idea of how active you was, how active was you doing this armed robbery thing, Linda? So people understand.
Well, we might have done one in a month. I mean, one day we did 2.
Yeah.
Because we just was on the way back from one, and we see something that we'd watched before and went, oh my God, we've got to have this.
We'll have that.
And we done 2 in one day.
Yeah.
I mean, we might have done 2 in a fortnight. We might not have done nothing for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But there was always something on the go.
Yeah. No, but that just gives people an idea of the architecture of the lifestyle that you was living.
Yeah.
So, what happens then? Because you go on, and years later, I mean, you get arrested. So what happens? Do you go to prison for that?
Yeah, I got 7 years.
Right, so you get 7 years for that. What was that?
In fact, like? Sort of going back then, Brian, what a gentleman, Carl. They both said to the old Bill, look, help her out. So they said, right, we'll have a deal with you. We've got so many robberies on our books. You start clearing our robberies up. The more robberies you give us, the easier we go on her. Well, it ended up, Brian held his hands up to 21 armed robberies. And they went, well, we'll ask for her to get probation. Right, we will go totally for her. Carl went, he said, I got to 15 and my throat dried, I couldn't say anymore. He said, but we've done our best for you. So they was obviously in custody, went to the magistrates, and these people are all charged with armed robbery. We'd like them all to have bail. So they went, surely not her. And the copper said, yeah, she's a widow, she's got 2 small children, they've had a traumatic life. We really feel she should be with her children till the trial comes up. And the magistrate went, well, I'm amazed you've said that, but I will go with it. But obviously you want a substantial surety. They went, no surety, we don't need a surety, she's not going to go anywhere. Oh, obviously you want her passport handed in. No, she hasn't got to hand a passport in. Anyway, so I was at home for a year. Then the trial came, and Brian got 21 years.
I was just thinking that, because I was with Brian. I could have swore he was doing a 21.
He was.
And
what the judge went, you've pleaded guilty to 21 armed robberies. I'm going to give you a year for every one of them, and you'll serve them one after the other. You are now serving 21 years.
It's not a small sentence.
Not a small sentence at all. And then he said to Carl, you've pleaded guilty to 15 armed robberies. I'm going to give you 1 year for every robbery. 15 years. And then he went, and as for you, I would like to give you 21 years today. And I thought, what? He went, but I can't, because it would be pointless, you would win your appeal. He said, then I thought, give you 15 years, the same as Carl Gibney. That also is a pointless exercise. He said, because far from what everybody in that dock and all the police officers concerned have tried to say that you were the smallest cog in this machine, I believe you was the machine. You was the whole machine. Yeah. And I was thinking, but how does he know? But he was talking the truth.
Well, you're right in the middle of it, Lind. Them dynamics, you're all in it together.
And then he said, I'm giving you 7 years and I hope you don't get a day off on appeal. And I started my sentence when I went into Holloway. I'd not done a day on remand. And going back all those years ago, I had the biggest sentence in Holloway other than a couple of women that were doing life. Because women going back in the day then, they got 6 months, they got a year, they might have got 18 months. There was no women got big sentences. And the officer standing next to me, she went, "Fucking hell," under her breath. And I thought, what's she doing that for? I didn't realise that I was going to end up having the biggest sentence. Went into the prison and they went, "She's got 7 years. They went, "Well, why haven't you been here on remand?" I said, "Well, because I wasn't." So they went, "How are you going to do it?" So I said, "Well, I'll have to do it. I committed the crime. I don't want to do it. But
you have to do it.
But I've got to do it. I've done the crime, I'll serve the time." And they went, "Bloody hell, you got the biggest sentence in here when people come in here doing a month ago, I never done it."
Moaning
and I accepted it. I didn't like it. Nobody can say they like prison. But
it's funny you say that though, you know, I'll just say a little bit on that, because I was the same, Lynn. I remember when I stood in that Old Bailey, you know, they fitted us up as well, and he was given all these years. I was just listening to the highest one, knowing the rest would be concurrent or whatever, right? And but I just always knew I was going to get a lump of bird. So we went downstairs, you know, shook hands with me. Pal, he was out of Bermondsey, you know what I mean? Like, you know, right then, that's it. Do you know what I mean? And of course, the hell that was to come was something else. But I think the life before it, when you live that life, kind of forges you and positions you like that outlaw kind of a, you know, I used to think I was Billy the Kid. They used to say to me, "Oh, you know," I say, "We're talking about Al Capone. I don't, you know, I think I'm Billy the Kid." Back in the day, because it was a life like that, wasn't it?
It was. I mean,
like, you know, outlaws, Lynn, wasn't it? And you're kind of like that, you know?
And I mean, my biggest regret was my children.
Yes.
Because I thought, my poor kids, they've had their dad shot dead. Now their mum's got 7 years.
Yes.
And that was my one regret. Because what I did because I wanted to do it. And I was like, no, I'm doing this. My kids are going to have everything their dad died trying to get them. And then when the first time they come and visited me, my son went, "Why did you do it, Mum? We only wanted you."
Yeah, this is the thing, you know?
And that was like,
Killer.
That was, because I thought I was doing what was right, and I wasn't.
Yeah, this life is not right, Lynn. You know, we have to
It's
say
not
that.
right. It's not right at all.
Prison, you know, tell us, sum it up. What was prison like then?
It was hard when I first went.
Yeah. What was Holloway like? And what was
Holloway, well, going back, obviously, this is like the olden days. I mean, nowadays people have laptops and God knows what in there, don't they, I believe. I mean, when I was there, you didn't have tellies. You had a radio, if you could afford a radio. They put me on cleaning, and the first thing I thought, well, where's all the mops and buckets? Oh, you don't, you scrub it on your hands, like on the floor, on your hands and knees. And everybody was like, "Damn, you got a big bar of soap and a scrubbing brush."
Thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, or a tin called Chemco with a green scouring pad, and you could get, that's all you did all day, was scrubbing floors.
Yeah.
And it's like, could you imagine people in prison now going, "Oh, you're scrubbing floors all day"? They go, "Yeah, right-o."
So, how long did you serve there then?
Well, we put in for an appeal, even though the judge said, "I'm hoping you don't get any time off." My solicitor said, "Well, look, Brian Thorogood, Cole Gibney, your brother, they're all appealing." He said, "We're not going to lose nothing. I'm appealing for you. They can't take off with everyone else and not you." So Brian got 3 years off, taking his to 18.
Yeah.
Cole got 2 years off, taking his to 13. Yeah. My brother got his dropped from 9 to 7. And mine got dropped from 7 to 5.
Wow.
Well, by then I'd already done sort of 18 months. So all of a sudden my date changed sort of radically, because they went, right, well,
real help.
Yeah. But I still ended up doing 3 years, 8 months.
But look, so you know, you got this moniker, as they say, this name, because of the people, the husbands that you was with, you know, ended up dead or whatever. We've gone through the story. So they called you this name, the Black Widow, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's quite a name, but, you know, it's just a name, right? You know, but there's
I don't take myself seriously. No. And as I've brought these along for you today, as you see, I've put a little spider under my name.
Yeah.
And I think, right, you want to call me the Black Widow, so be it.
We've been called many things, you know. Yeah. It's just, but I'm just saying that for people out there, so they understand the story, they understand the migration of the story, you know, and what and why all this stuff, right? Because there's a lot more. Because I want to move on. Because you know, you come out of prison, Lind, you know, and you've gone on to do, you know, back to your normal life for what you really are. Yeah. Same as myself, as has been said, right? After all of that stuff, back to who you really are, your normal self and all that, right? Yeah. And it's a long way back to finding yourself, is what I'd say, right? I've had to do it, so I really resonate with that, right? You know, and you've gone on to do amazing things, right? You know, you've brought these wonderful books here today. So tell us about your writing career and the books. It'd be a great start.
This one came out in January.
Yeah,
Life Inside.
Yeah.
Now, this is my journey through prison, from my first sentence right up until my release at the end of my second sentence.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, when I had my book signing, a screw came. Actually, he came when I did that book signing. And he said to me, I've got to tell you, he said, I can't believe how many copies of your Life Inside are in my prison. He said, and the guys all think it's fantastic. But that's my prison stories. And this is my latest novel. It's the first one of a trilogy, Faith, and it's about 3 generations of women. The mother and the daughter were prostitutes, not by choice, but by situation. And as you can see, this one was recommended by Kimberly Chambers, a very well-known author, and this one was recommended by Martina Cole. So you can't get better accolades than that.
Yeah.
And this is my 4th and 5th book, and I'd love to think, if people would like to know more about my story, it starts with The Black Widow, the first book that I did.
Yeah.
And then went on to The Locksmith, the game.
Yeah, the game, yeah.
And then Life Inside, which is my, as I say, my prison diaries, and Faith.
What would you say about it all now, right? You know, and the other side of all this stuff, you know? What would you say about it all? What's important, you know, and what have you learned about all this stuff, about where you are as a person you are now in your life today?
I think I would advise anybody not to go down a crooked route. It doesn't pay. It doesn't pay at all. You might think it does at the time, but what you pay from your own personal self isn't worth it, isn't worth what you get. And I've met so many women, I suppose you have men in prison, that have earned nothing and ended up in prison for stupidness and lost years of their lives, and you see them coming, they get 6 months, they go out, they come back, oh, I've got 9 months now, oh, I've got a year now. Then they go, oh, I've got 3 years now. And it's such a waste. I would say to anybody, if you're thinking about crime, please don't. Please do not go down the crime route. And I can tell you with my hand on my heart, it's no good to anybody.
Lind, thanks. You've been an amazing guest, you know, and a dear friend, you know, for a long time. Thanks for coming on. Thanks everyone for listening, of course, engaging with all the stuff that we do, supporting the channel, all the work. Of course, I'm Stephen Gillen, got my own unfortunate dark history in organised crime and imprisonment. Got my own book out there as well, Extraordinary, The Search for a Life Worth Living. For those of you who don't know that, doing lots of wonderful stuff. As always, take care out there. God bless and be lucky.